Dan Rubenstein.
That's me.
Week one, mostly in the books as we come on the airwaves tonight. As you know, it has been months and months on end since we last gathered in this forum after a full slate of college football games. Tonight, we are back at it. We're right back where we belong, perhaps a little bleary-eyed. It's late at night, perhaps a little worse for the wear, either because, well, your kids are going back to school, or maybe you're just worn down from 12 hours of football and all those Meghan Trainor ads. But either way,
it's a lot, Ty. It's a lot of Meghan Trainor, and I'm totally great with Meghan Trainor. It's a lot of MT.
With all that being said, welcome back, one and all. Welcome back for Ballerhood. Thank you for joining us. For those of you watching live on YouTube at midnight on Saturday, for those who are listening early on Sunday or some point other, week one, it's finally here, my friend. How you doing?
I'm good. Obviously, I sound terrible. I feel better than I sound. I'm quite excited to talk about what just happened, especially since it's not over today-wise. It's not over weekend-wise. It's not over Monday-wise. We had Thursday things worth talking about, Friday things we're talking about, a ton on Saturday. So, yeah, I've got my my content speedo on, Ty, and I'm ready to dive in from the 10-meter platform.
For those of you who are watching live, feel free to hit us up in the chat. We always appreciate your commentary. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit like if you are ever so inclined. On tonight's episode, we're going to dive in some of our bigger game recaps, conference storylines. We're going to read some of your tweets that were sent in to our social media accounts. We've also got some weird news stories that popped up throughout the course of a college football week, as they always do, as you know.
Of course.
And last but certainly not least, we got a bunch of your reverbs that came in to the line. Our boy Shay cut those up. We're going to play those a little bit later on in the episode, Dan.
Yes. Can't wait. We've got a lot to get to.
What was your big takeaway from week one? I mean, a lot going on. It started on Thursday, continued through Friday and Saturday as we're coming on the air tonight. There are still some games going on out in the West Coast, some late night action. We've also got 3 more that are going to take place over the course of Sunday and Monday. But just bigger picture, if we zoom out in terms of key themes and things that jumped out to you, where are you at?
I think there's a lot of excitement and a lot of questions around quarterback. There were quarterback situations that teams felt very confident in that might take a little bit more time. There are quarterback situations that are pleasant surprises. And I think that's, due to the fact that we're working in so many new guys that we're just going to have a spectrum of results with what they're doing. And we're also at a point where we're removed enough from getting extra COVID years where it's just a younger position in general. And so when you look across this great land, we're seeing great quarterback play. We're seeing new quarterback play. And we're seeing, still buffering a little bit quarterback play. And that's what I took from today in the matchups with two teams that are on somewhat equal or comparable ground.
I felt completely caught off guard by a bunch of what we saw. And perhaps I shouldn't be surprised because we've been doing this for a good long time now. And it feels like this sort of happens at some point throughout the first couple weeks of the season, right? Whether it's week 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. First month of the season, that's what this is all about.
Right.
It's about feeling your way through this thing and trying to get a sense for who's where. And what I thought was most interesting is some of the teams about which I had the biggest questions answered them in a really big way.
Sure.
And other ones that I maybe didn't have as strong of a question about, I think they gave me more reason to question them than I was initially expecting. So, of course, it is week 1 and everybody's going to improve. Nobody is going to be the finished product at this stage in the game. But there are definitely a fair amount of teams out there as we go through the next hour or so that I was caught a little bit flat-footed. A lot of the research we did in the preseason, I think, still applies.
Yeah.
Most of that stuff is still pretty current. But questions, new things that popped up as a result of week 1, that's kind of why we're all here tonight, isn't it?
Did you, by the way, we're another year older. College players remain the same age. Do they seem faster to you? I'm watching these dudes. I'm like, holy moly, Aaron Anderson can move. Like that, I just keep finding myself so impressed with player speed, big school, medium-sized school, small school. I'm just like, man, we are a nation of burners on this football field. It's been really fun to watch. But again, it could be my eyes slowing down, so everything seems fast.
So coming into week one,
yes,
the big game, the centerpiece that most people put up on the wall as the banner game for the week was Texas on the road at Ohio State. But as week one goes, as college football goes, you often have other games that pop up and at least try to steal that mantle.
yes.
Florida State knocking off Alabama 31-17 was sort of the upset of the day. That was a big one. We could start there if we wanted. LSU against Clemson is one of those games where I came in with what I thought were a fair amount of questions about both sides, frankly. And I came out of that matchup feeling much, much differently than I expected. We also have games that took place a little bit earlier in the week. The Auburn Baylor game, I think, leaves us with perhaps, in some cases, more questions than answers. Same deal with Georgia Tech and Colorado. A bunch of games here that I've got on my list. Of course, we can't get through all of them on this episode. We're going to do our best to cover the main themes and just give our initial reactions to what we saw. For more of our thoughts, you can tune into the Tuesday episode. That's kind of where we go with our spillover thoughts. But where do you want to start, Dan? What is the thing that jumps out the most to you in thinking back over week one?
It's Ohio State hosting Texas, and everybody sort of smothered everybody in that game. It just like there seemed to be a vacuum of space. I don't know if that scientifically makes sense as a phrase, but nothing in that game was easy for anybody, which was, I think, a great reflection of the fact that these two teams have had all offseason to prepare for one another, and Texas just finished its season having prepared somewhat unsuccessfully, but still played really well against Ohio State in the semis of the playoff. And that you're dealing with a lot new in this game. But I came away crazy impressed with two defenses, one offense. I'm not worried about anybody on this field long term because these are going to be two excellent teams over the course of the season. But came away fascinated with what Ohio State was able to do in terms of game planning, a relatively conservative game plan on offense, but making it work for them, starting out a little bit sloppy. They weren't necessarily succeeding on the ground, but they made it work for them. They got some tough yards on the ground. They didn't take many chances against an excellent back end of this Texas defense. And Texas didn't take that many chances with their own new quarterback against the back half of the Ohio State defense. And I don't know, it just kind of went as it was lower scoring than I thought it would be. But when you look at the amount of talent on this field, in retrospect, it makes sense that nobody could truly separate aside from that. It was Carnell Tate who had the long, like 40-yard touchdown
40
catch.
40-yarder, yeah.
Like it just, there was so much, and it being week one, it wasn't a huge surprise that everybody kind of tried to pack it in, not make mistakes. And the team who was able to get those key stops, which I'm pretty sure Ohio State had 37 dudes on their defensive line on some of those 4th and short moments. They succeeded. Ohio State was just ready in those huge moments in a way that Texas wasn't quite. So that's how I came away from that game, that both of these teams are going to be excellent all season long, but Ohio State is a little bit more advanced in this moment.
I mean, the final score was 14-7.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that either of us expected a shootout. We didn't. But I don't know, to your point, if anybody saw this one coming. I mean, we can label this however we want. I think we can say generously this was a defensive slugfest through and through. These are two really, really good defenses. They were the ones that ruled the roost here. Both of them played extremely well. It was Ohio State's, though, that impressed me the most. And I know you posted a video about this shortly after the game, which you can find out on our social channels and whatnot. But they held Texas scoreless for the first 56 minutes of this football game.
Yeah.
They got a couple really key 4th down stops. As you said, Texas was just 1 of 5 on 4th downs.
More red zone issues for Texas.
More red zone issues. They, of course, had a big stop down on the goal line as well. Yep. They tried to sneak it in with Arch. They couldn't get him in. And I guess the bigger point is they pick off Arch twice, one of which was overturned. So they had him seeing, I think, some ghosts out there. There just wasn't a whole lot down the field. They even mentioned it on the broadcast a couple times that on the Texas side, at least early, we didn't see some of like the orbit motion and the side-to-side stuff and the normal things that Steve Sarkisian typically would do to try and get a defense off balance, either because he didn't think it would work or for some other reason with however they put the game plan together. It was a more conservative game plan than I expected. They did open it up a little bit as the game wore on, more out of necessity. But, that to me was really surprising, especially with all the hype surrounding Arch Manning.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like we buried the lead here.
Which is?
Well, the lead should be that Ohio State won this game 14-7 because of a stellar defensive effort and because they played really sound, responsible offensive football.
By the way, sidebar on your first point, let's give some flowers to Matt Patricia and those linebackers. Patricia,
absolutely. Listen, they look good. They really did look good.
Buddy, this is a Texas team that by midseason is going to be scoring a bunch.
Yep.
I think. Perhaps.
Here is the lead, though, okay? The lead, and not to take anything away from Ohio State, because Ohio State won this game.
Correct.
There is going to be a conversation that rages all week long, maybe all season long, about Arch Manning.
Do you think that's going to happen?
Yes, it's already happened. It happened all offseason before he even played a snap.
Sharp commercials for Viore and Warby Parker, by the way.
The Warby Parker, the Viore stuff, very touching.
Sharp.
There's going to be an ongoing conversation about whether Arch is overhyped. As of the second half of this game, Arch was no longer the betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. It only took one half of football for those
all fluid,
odds to shift. Everything's fluid. So for starters, obviously, very tough spot for him on the road. Week one, possibly against the best team in the country. We could argue that point until we're blue in the face. It's very early, but there's no debate that Ohio State's one of the top 5 teams in the country at this point.
Sure.
So credit where it's due to the Ohio State defense. Again, played blanket coverage. Honestly, they looked incredible, but tough spot for Arch. Give him a little bit of grace on that front to sort of maybe grow into this thing. Way too early to know if this was a case of the defense purely holding down Arch or if this was an aberration of some sorts or whether it's more of a trend.
Or
all
if
I'm going to
say
is
one
this.
And all of these things are true. Yeah.
All I'm going to say is this.
Yeah.
The version of Arch that we saw today was overhyped. Okay. That version of him made some nice throws, granted. Showed some flashes, for sure. But he missed throws. You can throw a rock and go online, and you could find a million clips of his delivery and mechanics kind of being out of sorts. Not very smooth. I don't know what the rationale is behind that. Is that normal Arch? Were guys speeding up his time? I don't know. Somebody smarter than me with the tape can grind that and figure that one out. But they're going to need to figure this out. He's going to need to figure this out because they've got a really tough road schedule.
Correct.
So what we saw today from him, and I agree, they're going to get better and they're going to be scoring 35 points before you know it. But if they do have aspirations of getting beyond teams like Ohio State, he got to figure this out, man. That was not good today.
Take a deep breath. Yep. And you know what? We wouldn't be having this specific conversation if his name was Arch Gullickson, right?
If his name were Arch Gullickson, we'd be talking about who's the backup after that.
Or be like, this is interesting. We'll trust Sark with quarterbacks because he's had a terrific track record these past few years. But yes, if his name were Arch Gullickson, the shape of the conversation changes. And also, he's probably not as good a quarterback given what he has available to him behind the scenes. So
that's true. It's all true.
It's all true. So no, 2 fascinating teams and a great first step for Ohio State, given all that's new on both sides of the ball.
Just one other quick point, and then we'll move on to perhaps the big one of the day.
Yeah. With, by the way, Julian
in
Sain.
Retrospect.
Julian Sain. Good job. Good job.
Ohio State only had 203 yards, but Ryan Day talked a bit after the game about Julian Sain.
Yes.
And he came out and said it. They didn't want to ask him to do too much. They wanted to make sure that he was put in a position to succeed. He wasn't out there trying to win the game on his arm. Sain didn't turn the ball over. He had a big throw late, that 40-yard touchdown pass to Carnell Tate to make it 14-zip. He was very, very reliable with the football. And there were definite moments in this game where I'm sitting by myself, I'm watching outside on like my picnic table, and I said it aloud to the dogs who clearly had no idea what I was talking about. that I actually felt in that moment like I was more trusting of Sayin than I was of Arch Manning. And that's not something, I mean, look, Julian Sayin is a 5-star, but that is not something I expected to say coming out of this game. So
I know. I hear you. Also at home, also likely had better protection, also had better receivers, also had, everything going for him in a way that Arch didn't in terms of the roster around him and comfort in this offense. So, yeah, it makes sense.
The Florida State-Alabama game, though, is the one that snuck up on a lot of people.
Yes.
Maybe not on Lee Corso. Congrats to the coach.
Did you see all of the BBC networks live streamed the final? I'm going to miss Lee Corso so much. He was so great. An icon.
An absolute icon. So he got the Ohio State one right, and he got this one right, too. Going out on a high note, 31-17. Florida State at home is a 2-touchdown dog. Pulls off a massive upset of the Alabama Crimson Tide in week 1. Our friend Tim Murray from out at VSiN pointed out on Twitter that now in 14 games for Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, he's lost 4 games as a favorite of 14 or more points, which is not going to set well in Tuscaloosa, if I'm being honest with you. We've made the joke about Tommy C. Where's my big Tom Callahan sound?
You kidding? Go get him, Tom!
I think it's fair to call him now Big Tom Callahan. We can start calling him that nickname. It was a little bit dependent on how he did in this matchup here.
Spiritually big, not physically, but yes.
Not physically.
Yeah.
But I was absolutely blown away by this version of the Florida State offense.
Same.
I was blown away by how good they looked, by how fast, to your point earlier, Tommy Castellanos looked.
Mm-hmm.
How shifty he was with the ball in his hands.
Who's the little guy? Jalen Lucas they were using creatively?
Really, I mean, they just found ways to tap into the athleticism of the guys they've got on that offense. I know it's not a perfect facsimile, but there were, I think, some comparisons to the system that Gus ran in his previous life at Auburn with Nick Marshall.
Sure.
Different players, different skill sets, but you saw a little bit more of that, certainly a lot more of that in this year's Florida State team than we saw last year with whatever they were trying to do last year.
Did you see Gus tweeted something out like, and I'm paraphrasing here, just like a vintage night of football or something like that? He's beaten, I think, Alabama as a coordinator and head coach 6 times now.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. Pretty nice vintage night for that system. The best of Big Tom Callahan. You're absolutely right. Do you want to stay with Florida State? Because I think they deserve the lion's share of the attention because of where they were.
Give them the flowers, dog.
Buddy, they overwhelmed Alabama when Alabama had the ball. It wasn't just utilizing speed on offense, getting creative, running those end arounds, Big Tom Callahan finding the lanes in this Alabama defense. They were pressuring the hell out of Alabama.
I felt like Ty Simpson was running for his life this entire game.
He looked lost. The offensive line looked lost. They couldn't run. I mean, obviously they're down Jam Miller for this one, but in terms of getting consistent push in the run game after the first quarter and a half, there wasn't much there. Alabama looked extremely ordinary in this one. And for game 1, in a high-profile stadium and spot, say what you will about Florida State, I didn't think Florida State had a chance in this game.
No, I didn't either. No. It did creep into the back of my mind that Gus has had some success against Alabama, but that was the Saban Alabama.
That's Saban's defense, yeah.
Sure.
I was shocked by the verve. Would verve be a good word here? That Florida State played with on both sides of the ball, losing what they did on defense. And, I mean, the defense was fine last year. That wasn't the huge issue. The issue last year was offense. But they just completely detonated what Alabama was trying to do on defense from the jump, and it was such a terrific statement. No matter what Florida State does the rest of the year, for them to come out like they did is the jolt they very much needed as they get into. They have Miami in a few weeks. It's relatively early on in the schedule. They've got Virginia coming up, Pitt. There are winnable games here for Florida State to take a huge jump this year. But, man, when you have that proof of concept week 1,
oh, yeah,
man, the Noles.
Well, look, I mean, I suppose there's always chance for a letdown or something like that. But how quickly the conversation around this conference is now different. It's completely on its ear as compared to what we talked about in the preseason, where we had Florida State, in some cases, middle of the pack. There's so much new. Are we into Tommy Castellanos? Are we not into him? I mean, a lot of these questions, I think, have been answered, at least for the moment. Whether they can remain consistent with it remains to be seen. But it just kept like bouncing around in my head as I'm watching this, that like, this is going to be a much, much different offense to try and play defense against in the ACC. There's almost nobody else like this that's going to run a system quite to this extent. And if they can keep Castellanos healthy, which I think is an important thing to call out, he is not Big Tom in reality. Right. He is a smaller dude. He's going to be asked to do a lot with his legs. He's going to be carrying the football a lot. He's going to be making a bunch of big decisions in the open field. Provided they can keep him healthy, it totally changes the complexion of the ACC.
Well, I think Alabama was not ready for the possibility of needing to send a ton of guys at him in order to force him to beat them with his arm, which Alabama didn't really do, right? Alabama wasn't bringing, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that didn't seem like they were bringing a ton of pressure to sort of keep Thomas Castellanos on the backs of his feet, or his heels, as it were, Ty.
That's what they're called. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So maybe that's a tact used moving forward for teams playing Florida State, like make him beat you with his arm. But Alabama didn't seem to be in that mood today, and it was very strange to see Alabama have everything dictated to them.
Yeah, and the other thing on the Alabama front, just in sort of perusing what the Bama fan base had to say, I mean, obviously you lose a game like this as a 2-touchdown favorite. That's not going to go over well. It's certainly not going to go over well on the heels of what I think last season was viewed as a bit of a disappointment, for better or worse. But a lot of questions out there regarding the play calling. And I don't put this all on Ty Simpson. Again, I don't think he had a whole lot of time to operate back there. It just felt like there was a Florida State guy running at him at pretty much every instance in this football game when they had the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Bama also kind of abandoned the run and kind of put a lot on Ty Simpson. And so it was like a catch-22 where it's like they couldn't really run super effectively. They decided to abandon it. They put a lot on Ty Simpson. They couldn't block for Ty Simpson, and it just made the whole thing harder. So I came away mighty impressed by Florida State. And for what it's worth, through 1 week, we're not even through 1 week, but through Florida State's first game, through Alabama's first game, I am left with this feeling that I completely whiffed on my preseason evaluation of Florida State. To that end, I don't know if anybody could have gotten it right because there was so much new and there were questions about where they're going with this and what's going to be.
Sunshine Scooter did, Ty.
But crazy.
By the way, speaking of things you whiffed on, your number one team in the country, Clemson.
It's a perfect segue to talk about our next game.
They could still be the number one team in the country in a few weeks. Who knows? Continue.
LSU 17, Clemson 10. An absolute statement win for LSU. I don't think there's any two ways about it. I mean, this is a coach who had yet to win an opener since getting to Baton Rouge. This is a coach who clearly understood in the offseason that they needed to improve in a hurry, had the number one transfer haul, needed to get results immediately in order to quell the fan base, which expects more than what they've gotten as of late. To go on the road with a lot new, with so many questions lingering, this to me is a huge statement by LSU. Absolutely huge. And again, if we want to bring it back to Coach Corso, LSU was his title pick. And I saw it this morning when I was watching, and I was like, I don't know. But you see a performance like this, what I'm really left with is, for as good as they can be on offense, and for as much over the last couple seasons as it has been all about the offense steering the ship, they won this game because they answered two big questions that I had coming in about them this season. The first was defense, in particular the secondary. The secondary looked really stout.
Yes.
in this game. They mentioned it a couple times on the broadcast, but the secondary did not look like a liability against, I think, a pretty good receiver core and a pretty good quarterback. They looked lights out. And then secondly, their offensive line. Remember, we talked a lot in the preseason about the offensive line, how they had a bunch of guys drafted and they were pretty good in pass protection, but run blocking, no bueno. They outrushed Clemson in this matchup. That's not to say they went off for 200 yards. They only had a shade over 100, but they were way more effective at running the football. It's just something of a counterbalance to keep Clemson on its toes, whatever. I was really impressed by their game plan. I was really impressed by how they looked, I guess, on both sides, offensive and defensive line. It just felt to me like a much more complete product than I was expecting in week 1 out of them, especially on the road against a really good team in Clemson.
So they weather the 2 fumbles because they had more turnovers than Clemson did. They had the 2 fumbles, one of which I think was like inside the 15. And LSU, for the first time, I guess since Brian Kelly's first year, did a really good job at playing boring football.
Yeah.
They didn't try to do too much. Garrett Nussmeier didn't try to force a ton of balls downfield. He had a really good game against a very difficult defense by accepting boring being the actual right move tonight. There were opportunities there. The LSU receiving core and the tight ends are going to be really good this season. But in game 1, with a new offensive line, in a difficult place to play, I thought Garrett Nussmeier did a really, really nice job. His numbers weren't there. The stat line wasn't there. But he was kind of hobbling around at times. He was taking hits. It's a really difficult Clemson defensive front to deal with. He hung in there in the pocket, took those hits, led them downfield when they needed to be led downfield. And again, the number here is what you mentioned. It was not only was the LSU secondary really good, up front, they didn't allow anything. No. Cade Klubnik was, especially as the game wore on, Cade Klubnik was under fire constantly from this LSU front. And Harold Perkins, I thought, was weaponized correctly. He was sort of unleashed against this Clemson front and did a great job. Like, it just made a lot of sense how LSU game planned and executed against Clemson. And I don't know what their ceiling is right now, but if you're going to Clemson week 1 and beating them, 1, you join a bunch of other teams who have done that recently. And 2, or just Georgia. 2, nobody wants this kind of speed and talent. If LSU is, they need to score 24, 28, 31 points more often than they did tonight, which was not at all. But LSU is scary if they're locked in. So good to see.
Yeah, it was good to see. And, again, not to belabor the point about the transfer portal, but they knew that they needed to come out and get results immediately.
Yep.
Just to get some of the pressure off, to go on the road at Clemson to win this kind of game. This is a gritty game. This is a game that in recent memory LSU has checked out on. They've tired out on defense. They haven't had the bodies on defense.
Or just couldn't close like last season. Yeah.
Right? I mean, remember the presser with Brian Kelly pounding the table about just his frustration in close game situations. This was another sort of monkey to get off his back, closing in one of those tight game situations. So I give them a lot of credit for what they did. They've got Florida coming up in Baton Rouge in 2 weeks. That's going to be a huge matchup. As we start getting into like the early part of October, that's when we're talking about a game against Ole Miss and South Carolina. A little bit deeper into this thing, we get Texas A&M, and then they go on the road to play Alabama, close out the year against Oklahoma. So we're going to see a lot more of LSU in some of these big game situations. But much like the Florida State conversation we had a moment ago, LSU winning a game of this magnitude, and just as a proof of concept, showing that they can be this good on defense against, again, a team that we think pretty unanimously is at least a top 10 team, top 10 caliber team in Clemson. This is pretty scary.
Yeah.
If you're somebody else in the SEC, especially since the SEC kind of feels like maybe a little bit more wide open than we expected now.
Yeah, I mean, depending on Arch's development, depending on Ty Simpson's development, sure, LSU's in a really nice place. Clemson has scored 3 points, 3 points, 7 points, and now 10 points in 4 of their last 5 openers. That's good for 5.7 points per loss in these openers against very tough opponents. And should also be noted, on that token, nobody is who they are in week 1.
No.
In week 8, right? You have to play in week 1 to get to week 2 and to get to week 6 and to get to week 11. And so, as we saw last year, Clemson was god-awful against Georgia and got better as the season went on, likely because they only had to play Georgia once. But all of these teams are going to improve, and they're just not going to look like what they do on August 30th or whatever, August 29th. And so that's important to keep in mind.
Another game that you and I were very interested in, we didn't talk about it on the Thursday preview as much. We talked about it mostly on the Tuesday episode because it was earlier in the week, but Auburn against Baylor.
Yes.
And I talked about this one as the best/most important game that most people were overlooking because there were so many other big games in week 1. There are still big games to come. 38-24, Auburn gets the better of Baylor on the road. The refs got off to a hot start in this one, Dan.
Yep.
Had some very interesting refereeing with missed calls. They missed a face mask where a Baylor player got his helmet ripped off very clearly right in front of the referee.
Sure.
Some questionable like holding calls, just not a great start for the officiating crews.
Week 1 for the officials as well.
Week 1 for the officials as well. What was most interesting to me about this matchup was the contrast in quarterback play. And I would say furthermore, the contrast in experiences, whether you're an Auburn fan or a Baylor fan. On one hand, on the Auburn side, you have Jackson Arnold, the duality of Jackson Arnold.
I mean, in this game, it was just the singular effort he made, but continue.
The best of Jackson Arnold last year was when he ran for 130 yards in that win over Alabama. Jackson Arnold this week, 16 carries, 137 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Baylor had no answer for it whatsoever. None. No. And Auburn was
they attempted to take bad angles. That was a solution, potentially. It didn't work out, though. If you go back and look at the tape, taking bad angles and having Jackson Arnold run through wrists, it wasn't the best move for Baylor's defense. Not a great night.
So they were really effective at running the football as a team. They went over 300 yards. They had 4 touchdowns on the ground. Jackson Arnold clearly has proven that he can do that. But as a passer, it's TBD.
Sure.
And this is where it's a bit of an experience, I think, moving forward. Like, I don't want to be too critical here because truly, there's a lot of value in not being too cute. Mm-hmm. Just stick with what works. Take with whatever the defense gives you.
You watched a lot of Riley Leonard last year.
A lot of Riley Leonard. Listen, you take whatever the defense gives you, you win, you go on to the next round, everybody's happy.
Agree.
But just 11 for 17, 108 yards through the air, just 5 receptions in total for Malcolm Simmons, Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton.
Yeah.
The passing game remains an open question. I don't think they can run this offense against a full SEC schedule, but at least for a big game like this to start, it was definitely a positive way to open up the season.
What's the only rule, Ty?
The only rule is it's got to work.
The only rule is it's got to work. Great title of a book about baseball. It worked really, really well on the road in a difficult place to play on a Friday night and having a team with a lot of questions. Still has some questions. They were better up front. Jackson Arnold made some really good decisions to tuck and run, and it worked. They scored nearly 40 points with very little to no effective passing game over the course of 4 quarters. So it worked.
It worked. And I say contrast in quarterbacks because I don't question Sawyer Robertson's ability to throw on the Baylor side.
No, it was good.
I can see the Sawyer Robertson experience being extremely frustrating, though, for Baylor fans. And what I mean by that is about 50% of the time, he is objectively really good. Really good. Throwing dimes, hanging in the pocket,
it's good offense,
showing
good
poise.
Receivers. Yeah.
The other half of the time, the ball could literally go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere. And I'm sitting there, I like, just watching these games by myself, me and the pups. And I'm thinking, is there a little bit of Max Whittick?
Man,
in Sawyer Robertson?
Catching strays in 2025.
Is there a little? I mean, that's a deep cut For
well,
the
he was
long timers out there.
overthrowing and like you throwing it 100 miles an hour. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
There's a little bit of that in Sawyer Robertson. He's very good. He's fun to watch. I'm glad that we get to see more of him.
Yeah.
But the contrast between these two quarterbacks and some of the questions that I think they answered, some of the ones that they didn't, the experience is going to be vastly different on both sides of this thing moving forward. Auburn gets the better of Baylor. This was a 2.5 point line. You and I differed a little bit on how we wanted to break this one down.
Yeah.
A good showing by Auburn, though, on the road. This is a good way to start another team, much like LSU, that made some noise in the transfer portal, needed to have immediate results. This was a game they needed to have, absolutely.
Yep.
And credit to Hugh Freeze for going out there and finding a way to get it done.
Baylor has SMU next week. They should figure out the tackling part of tackle football, because my Zen piece of advice is tackle football is very hard when tackling is a problem.
Well, and Kevin Jennings, by the way, is no stranger to doing exactly what we saw Jackson Arnold do.
Correct.
And that is find a seam and run for it.
Yep.
He might be better at it. So the fact that we saw what we saw from Baylor in week 1, their inability to keep him in the pocket, I think that's problematic. I really do. They're going to score points in droves as they move forward. I'm not worried about the offense one iota. But the defense, that was the big question coming into the season. And I don't know if they really answered most of those questions for me, at least not yet.
By the way, had another fun game Friday night. Colorado
Georgia Tech.
The turnover margin 3-0 in the first quarter alone, and then got outscored like 27-13, and couldn't consistently do much on offense to really threaten Georgia Tech. Certainly, speaking of tackling being difficult, tackling Haynes King in the, what do you call it, the Haynes your way backfield?
Haynes your way backfield, yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say they're getting merit badges on their jackets this week. Does that still exist? For their efforts against the Georgia Tech rushing attack. Haynes King was great. He was great on the ground. He pulled, he ran through, he ran by. And look, it's a Colorado team with a lot of new players and trying to be a little bit more balanced on offense, but they got gashed at home in week 1.
They did. I mean, I actually came away pretty impressed with Colorado.
No, they weren't terrible, but in
like,
that specific area of football.
This is the 3rd straight year now where we come into a season with huge questions about Colorado. Maybe they weren't as big of questions a year ago, but certainly year 1 under Dion, now year 3 under Dion, we had just different questions because there was so much new, because some of the best players were leaving, because there was just turnover in general.
Mm-hmm.
And Georgia Tech is one of these teams that I think we figure to be at or near the top of the ACC this season. I mean, there's a lot to like with this squad. Colorado getting them at home week 1 helps, but look, this was a tight game. This was tied at 20 late into this game.
Colorado had chances. They
absolutely had chances. I mean, Haynes King, you're right. Haynes King, who again looked exhausted at the end of this one. They put everything on Haynes King, and he's going to get hurt again if they keep doing this. But he has a big 45-yard touchdown run with about a minute left to make this one 27-20, and that was ultimately what gave the Rambling Wreck enough separation to win this one. But Colorado had their chances, and I thought Caden Salter looked okay. I thought their ground game looked better. They averaged close to 5 yards per carry. Clearly, they've got stuff that they've got to work through, and I don't think they're going to be as good as they were a year ago, but I also don't think they're going to be as big of a disaster as I've seen some people predict.
Sure.
I think they're going to be fine. Now, that being said, what happened with the time management down the stretch here? What was that?
You've seen this a million times at the end of the game where a team has timeouts and it's just tick, 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 and it's 3rd and 8 or whatever, and it's just precious seconds coming off with no real plan. And then Colorado basically had 2 heaves at the end of the game instead of giving themselves more opportunities to get closer to the end zone for a more manageable shot at tying it up. So it wasn't great clock management at the end. Not ideal.
Not ideal, but I thought Colorado acquitted itself well. And I think on the Georgia Tech side, even though a lot of us are pretty high on Tech to varying degrees, to go on the road week 1, play against a team like a Colorado that still has a ton of talent, to win like this, to win a gritty game, they showcase what they're all about. You know, you made a joke on one of our previous episodes about how Brent Key looks like he eats sawdust for breakfast.
Yes.
There was a lot of sawdust in this win for Georgia Tech.
Yep. And whatever happens when you eat sawdust on a Friday night probably happened this morning.
A big one, though, on Thursday night.
Oh, man.
USF 34-7 over Boise State. So, this was the first game on Thursday. This is how we led off week 1. I warned you in the preseason to fear the Bulls. Did I not? Did I not pick them as my American champ?
No, you did. You're on the record.
This game was 10-7 at halftime. South Florida comes out second half. They outscore Boise 24-0. They end up winning going away. Their first win over a ranked team since 2016. Care to venture a guess who they beat in 2016 who was ranked? The last ranked team that USF beat.
The last ranked UCF? I don't know. Who?
Did I say UCF? USF.
No, I know. USF. Who was the ranked team? I was guessing UCF, but I don't know who that
Navy.
Team is.
They beat Navy. That was the last ranked team that USF has beaten. So here we are now. This is a monster win for Alex Golesh and the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Byron Brown is healthy, back at quarterback, an absolute friggin' dude.
Yep.
Felt like he stole, like USF continued to steal Boise's soul throughout the course of this game. Just every little bit. It all kind of crystallized in this one moment, I believe in the third quarter, where USF sneaks in a backup quarterback, Lachlan Hewitt. He's in a punt formation. It's not a punt.
Nope.
It's just a straight pass. He puts his entire body into this one to Keshawn Singleton for a 45-yard touchdown strike about midway through the fourth.
Nobody within 30 yards of him, it looked like, yeah.
Ball was a little bit underthrown, but after that, a walk-in touchdown. That moment forward gave USF all the momentum. And on top of it, it was about the sloppiest I've seen Boise in a long time. I mean, 3 lost fumbles. It just felt like they kept shooting themselves in the foot. Maddox Madsen, kind of like a budget Sawyer Robertson in that the best of him can be good, but also you get inaccuracy. You get some weird decisions from time to time. I haven't heard much from the Boise State fans who chimed in the preseason telling me that their backfield this year might be as good as it was last, because we didn't see that at all in this game against USF.
I was very confused as to why Boise didn't start Ashton Genty in this game.
Exactly.
That would have been the move.
That would have been the
Boise
move,
because he's so good at college
bring him back.
football.
Bring him back.
But I don't know why they overlooked that guy. Yeah.
USF dominated this game. It took a while to get there, but in the second half, they really made the right adjustments. They asserted their will.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another one. I mean, a recurring theme now we talk about with Florida State, with LSU, even to some extent with Texas and Ohio State. But Boise losing now opens up the door on the G5 level for a bunch of other teams who maybe were on the periphery of that playoff discussion.
Sure.
I bring up Boise. Army loses in double overtime to Tarleton State.
Yes.
Okay. Didn't see that one coming.
Mm-hmm.
That was sort of out of left field. Rice beats Louisiana.
Beat Louisiana. Yeah.
Louisiana was one of those teams that I think we had considered for, at least the American, if not maybe a playoff spot. That's a bad loss. San Jose State, your Spartans, Dan.
I know.
West Coast Sparty, 16-14. They end up losing to Central Michigan with a new coach.
Yeah.
They had 236 rushing yards. The final minute and a half of this game was nuts.
Wasn't great.
2 missed field goals. There were strange play calls, risky passes, sideways runs, all sorts of crazy crap going on. San Jose State, Ken Niumatalolo go down as well. 4 games right there just on the G5 level, and we could talk through more, and we probably will at some point on our next episode when we have more time. But again, talk about reframing the conversation over and over and over again. If this doesn't open the door for a team like a Tulane, if this doesn't open the door for a team like a USF, for a team like a JMU, I don't know what does. I mean, if nothing more, this proves that there is a lot of wide openness to not just the G5 level, but just college football as a whole.
By the way, another team you didn't mention that I think had hopes given what they invested in their roster. Oregon State right now is being plastered on Sangapua television.
Oh,
Like,
wow. Look at that.
It's pretty good, right? Sangapula
pretty
TV. I don't know. Pua. I'm trying. I'm workshopping here.
Songa Pula Tele.
Vision.
Yeah.
This dude, true freshman, actually enrolled at Oregon last winter, transferred to Cal, where he was originally committed from Hawaii. Big throwing lefty. Like, his throws are big. He's not huge. He's like 6'2" or something like that. Throwing absolute dimes late at night right now on Saturday. They're up 24-3 at Oregon State. Just absolutely dealing.
Oregon State did not play defense last year, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
That's a road game for Cal, and
Correct.
This is a true freshman starting. And there's a lot of reason to be excited. Lefty,
Not even the high-profile transfer Cal brought in from Ohio State getting the job.
No.
True freshman.
No. Yeah. All right. So some other games around college football, Dan, we can go through some of these
Sure,
a little bit more rapid fire and give reactions to them. I have many thoughts about this Tennessee win over Syracuse because I watched most of this one. It was on earlier in the day on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I posted in our Discord at verballers.com fairly early on that I thought Syracuse was going to get murdered because I was watching the line play and it just seemed like they were getting pushed around. In particular, their defensive line really did not have much of an answer for Tennessee when it wanted to run. They were getting to the second level way too easily. And that, to me, seemed problematic. Now, Fran Brown's a culture guy. And if we learned anything from a year ago, Fran Brown knows how to get the guys playing. Fran Brown knows how to get fight out of his guys. I knew that they would be feisty. They weren't just going to roll over and take it. So they did mount something of a comeback in the second half. But still, they end up losing 45-26 to Tennessee. Tennessee ran for almost 250 yards, Dan. I thought they looked good on the ground. We knew that going in. What we didn't know is Joey Aguilar. What we didn't know was what the receiver relationship with Joey Aguilar was going to look like.
Sure. And it is a quarterback-friendly system. Run it
very quarterback-friendly system, Dan.
But he's late to it. Yeah.
Very late to it. I cannot tell you how many people emailed in, called in, sent in social media messages about how this looks like a previous iteration of Tennessee football that Tennessee fans are very excited about. So, for whatever it's worth, against a Syracuse team that I don't expect to have that good of a defense, but that's beside the point. In week one, you could have looked a lot worse with a quarterback who is very new to this and had a lot to learn, and a team that, lost a lot along the offensive line. There were real questions for Tennessee. There are still questions for Tennessee, but I thought they looked really good on offense. I thought on defense, they looked incredibly well, especially up front. They were stunting and twisting that Syracuse offensive line to death. And Steve Angeli looked good when he had time.
Right.
And as this game wore on, he just did not have time. So I feel pretty good about what I saw out of Tennessee. Now, I'd also be remiss to not give voice to the Tennessee fans out there who had a lot to say about the refereeing in this game.
Sure.
This is another situation, refs for week one. There was a moment in this game where two guys from Syracuse tried to take a dive at the same time to fake injuries. Did you catch that?
I did see that. Demetrius Samuel, I think, was one of them. And, thoughts and prayers, obviously. Yeah.
It was incredible. They both tried to do it at the same time. One of them recognized that the other was like a little bit further along in the process.
Yeah.
And so he sort of pulled back. But, as you might imagine, there were a lot of Tennessee people out there who were irate about this. And it just across the board, they viewed a lot of the calls in this one as uneven.
You're telling me Tennessee fans are vocal about being given the short end of things by referees. Let me write this down on the legal pad right here.
Tennessee has a good opportunity now to build some more good vibes next week against Eastern Tennessee before they host Georgia in week 3.
Do you know how far back you have to go to find a Tennessee team that started this season by absolutely shelling an overmatched ACC team and then quickly falling back to earth? You have to go all the way back to 2024 when they did this to NC State. So all I'm saying is opening stanza, very promising. Pretty cool that Joey Aguilar can come in and immediately have the orange Popeye spinach and just roll. Looks great.
Dan, give me your broad takeaways, the things that jumped out to you the most in the Big Ten.
In the Big Ten, I still want more pop from the Nebraska offense. Dylan Raiola looks improved. The defense looks really, really good. They got off the field on third down a lot more than it seemed like they were doing last season against Cincinnati in Kansas City. But how are you getting downfield? Let's get downfield. Let's throw over the middle a little bit. Let's take some chances for 50-50 balls with these receivers that you're paying. Like, he did a good job. I think it was Isaiah Hunter who caught the touchdown on the fade.
Yep.
But let's keep going. Let's keep going, Nebraska. Let's keep going, Dana Holgorsen. Elsewhere in the Big Ten, unless you have any Nebraska thoughts.
I don't have Nebraska thoughts. I have Cincy thoughts.
If Brendan Sorsby running the ball is like what your plane is built out of, could be fun. Not sure that's an 9-game winning plane.
No, and I'm not sure what the decision tree was on that last interception when he inexplicably tried to throw a fade in the back corner of the end zone from 33 yards away.
Yeah.
It was an easy pick. I groaned as soon as he threw it. I knew it.
Yep.
I absolutely knew it. He only threw for 69 yards in the game.
Nice.
As a team, they ran much better, but Cincinnati, again, remains in the state of just sort of limbo where we have more questions than answers, and I'm not sure what we saw in week 1 really provides any of those.
Bryce Underwood was 17 last week. Bryce Underwood started a game for Michigan. I think it was New Mexico, which, grain of salt, looked pretty comfortable. Looked like a playmaker. Kind of looked like the best possible version of somebody who has it's this first year, who has a first-year offensive coordinator in that system, who has a lot new on everywhere on this team. It's New Mexico, but ahead of the Oklahoma game next week. Promising performance from Bryce Underwood, I would say. Billy Edwards got hurt really early on in the Wisconsin game, but I think he's going to be back, but doesn't seem like he's going to be back tomorrow.
He's not going to be back tomorrow. Thankfully, his MRI was clean, so he's not going to be out for an extended period of time. What the hell is up with these Wisconsin quarterbacks? They're like spinal tap drummers.
It's not great.
I don't get it. It's just so unfortunate.
They did flash creativity with Jeff Grimes. I'll give them that.
They did. And defensively, they're really good. Defensively, they held Miami to 117 yards, 0 for 9 on third downs, 0 for 9, and no points. So you'll take that from a defensive standpoint, but offensively, that's where most of the questions are with this team.
Elsewhere, I'm trying to cycle. Minnesota had like a weirdly uneven game in which Drake Lindsey made a huge play at the end, throwing like a 60-yard touchdown pass to ice it against Buffalo. But this was also tight against Buffalo late.
It was
Minnesota?
tight.
There were a lot of underlying very good things for Minnesota in this game.
I feel like Minnesota was in control of this game and couldn't fully translate what they put out on the field into points.
Right.
So to me, it felt like the score was a little bit misleading when I went back and watched this game. I love Drake Lindsey. I mean, I always have a fascination with Minnesota quarterbacks.
Yes,
It's like my Achilles heel, but he looks like he is 6'8" out there. I know he isn't, but he looks like an absolute tank.
Mm-hmm.
He threw for 290 and 2 scores. I thought he looked really good in this game, especially on that play that you just mentioned down the stretch of the long touchdown that gave them a little bit of added separation. So look, if Minnesota can play good defense, if Minnesota can get a little bit more pop out of the offense, that's kind of what we've been waiting for, right? They ran pretty well in this game with Darius Taylor. Like, I don't know. We'll see.
Indiana was not, what did I call them last year? A murder machine?
No.
They were not a murder machine, at least not a fast-starting murder machine against, I think it was the Monarchs of ODU, right?
Correct.
It was a slow start, but they win somewhat comfortably. Maryland won very comfortably. Huge first half,
Malik,
which, like,
my guy.
again, I don't have high hopes for Maryland. But you're telling me Maryland can be entertaining? Okay.
The point for Maryland in 2025 is not to win 10 games. The goal could be to win 6. But the point is, because they're so young and because they're still trying to find who their new playmakers are going to be, the point is to try and get these guys in there and see who pops. And if this was any indication, Maryland looked really good. Now, it was against FAU. FAU's got their own
first-year
thing
coach,
going on now. With Zach Kitley, new coach. I mean, that's a tough situation as well. But if you're telling me that you've got your guy now in a true freshman, Malik Washington, who threw for 3 touchdowns and I thought looked pretty legit, that's something at least that you can build around. and feel pretty good about.
Young dude. Northwestern appears to be bad, but it's week 1.
What happened with the uniform thing?
Tulane requested.
They played Tulane. They lost Tulane
in
by
New
20.
Orleans. Yeah.
They lost 23-3.
Yes.
4 first half picks for Preston Stone. So the transfer quarterback jinx is ongoing in Evanston.
Mm-hmm.
And people online were irate and already calling to fire David Braun.
Yep.
through like a quarter. But that being said, Tulane goes on to win here. Jake Retzloff had a good game. That's a separate conversation altogether with where Tulane stacks up in the G5. But there was this controversy about the jersey color.
Yeah. Tulane wanted to wear white because it was what they wore at their first game after Katrina, and it's a Katrina anniversary right now. I think it's 20. And Northwestern declined the ask to change their white uniforms for their road game against Tulane. And so Tulane wore greens, and John Summerall had a quote about, like, when you disrespect New Orleans, you got to run through it. So I'm misphrasing it here, but yeah, from what I could see, Tulane looked good. Northwestern less than stellar. Your guy Mark Gronowski for Iowa. Speaking of less than stellar,
hold on.
Not talking about this.
Woo!
It was against an FCS team. This is something he should be used to. He wasn't playing against the Wisconsin defense, the Nebraska defense, the Oregon defense.
Oh my God.
He was playing against a Jared Verseless Albany Danes team. Not ideal.
No.
Not great.
No.
But I haven't seen a lot of this game, so I reserve the right to say maybe he just has no receivers, maybe he had no protection, maybe the calls were terrible, but didn't look great.
Purdue won 31-0 over Ball State. Actually looked pretty good. Need to go back and watch that one. Penn State. We had a lot of questions about Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Not because we didn't think they'd be talented. I think we're in pretty wide agreement here at this point that they're a top 5 team. But in particular, can they pass this year? I really liked what I saw out of the passing game. I know it was against Nevada.
Oh, Penn State's going to win the Mountain West. Great.
But what's it going to look like without Tyler Warren? You know, Tyler Warren was clearly the focal point of that offense last year, at least through the air. Kyron Hudson looked legit. Trevor Payne, who came down from Syracuse, looked legit. Our friend Ben Jones, who's been on the show a number of times in his newsletter, said, quote, "Today marks the 4th time in the last 21 games that Penn State's leading receiver has been an actual wide receiver," end quote.
Wow. Who was it? Kyron Hudson?
Kyron Hudson, yeah.
Yeah, USC transfer. Okay.
I thought they looked pretty good through the air for whatever you can take away from a game like this. DDS, our boy, Denied Dennis Sutton, looked really strong along the line. Didn't have a ton of explosiveness on the ground. I don't know if they were really trying. But at least through the air, the little bit that we saw, I liked how they integrated some of the new pieces. Penn State in this game had 9 straight scoring drives.
Okay.
Which maybe isn't unexpected. They didn't cover the 43.5-point spread, but they did win 46-11.
UCLA's current leading running back rusher has 3 carries for 9 yards in the second half, as Utah is sort of suffocating them, and Devin Dampier is doing a whole bunch to be impressive. Who knows what it means against UCLA? Washington is all tied with Colorado State at the time of this recording at halftime. Colorado State running really well against what I would have hoped would be an improved defensive front and defensive line for Washington against the run this year. We'll see. By the time you listen to this, you will probably know what happened. And my reaction is, wow, or okay. That's my reaction. Oregon could have scored 94 points against Montana State, who's a legit FCS team. They're a very, very good FCS team. Oregon looks very deep and very fast and played very well. Dante Moore looked very comfortable against an FCS team.
Let me speed run the SEC real quick.
Please do.
The other games that we did not talk about. Kentucky 24, Toledo 16. This game did not do much to convince me that Kentucky is not a mess.
Week 1.
Okay. It is week 1.
Week 1.
But this was an ugly, a tight game pretty much the full way through. Kentucky's defense was outstanding, but that's never really the issue. It was the offense that again struggled in this one as they did a year ago. Zach Calzada threw for 85 yards and a pick. The Armada is sailing, but maybe taking on some water. and it's only week 1. It was the ground game that got this one done for Kentucky, especially Dante Dowdell, the transfer. He had a big run late that made it a 2-score game. Still, Toledo scored inside 2 minutes, had a shot at an onside kick. They hung with Kentucky, covered the point spread. Thank you very much.
Yes.
The Mizzou game was unfortunate, but at the same time, sort of, I guess, promising. So the unfortunate bit is that Sam Horn went down on the first snap on Friday night. So if you recall correctly, Eli Drinkwitz mentioned in the run-up to this game they were going to continue their quarterback battle through this game against Central Arkansas. Sam Horn's first snap goes down, non-contact injury.
Yes.
Huge bummer for him. Seems like he's going to be out for an extended period of time. Looks like it's going to be Bo Pribula. Bo Pribula stepped in and looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really had like 350 total yards, 4 touchdowns. If you're a Mizzou fan, an offensive explosion like this is a real nice neck crack.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good neck crack in week 1, even against Central Arkansas. 61-6. Probably a question about quarterback depth at this point, especially if you've got a runner like Bo.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, Bo looked pretty good, and he was able to move this offense effectively. So if you're a Mizzou fan, at least you've got that. Mississippi State. State.
Tight.
Well, it was, but I credit the coaching staff here because they made some second half adjustments. They came out after the break and they went real run heavy. And it was 13-10 at half. They came out, they ran the crap out of the ball. They outscored Southern Miss 21-0 to pull away. So credit to them for sort of finding what they thought was going to work better and sticking to it.
Yep.
And winning. So we had that. And then as for the rest of what went down in the SEC, we pretty much had big wins across the board from Georgia to Arkansas. Texas A&M got more of a fight from UTSA, but I think UTSA is at least a decent side, so I don't feel too bad about that. Florida, Ole Miss, I mean, much more of what you would expect from all of those teams. Now, Oklahoma won by a pretty healthy margin. I can get to what some of the Oklahoma fans sent in a little bit later when we do some of the tweets.
There's some frustration.
There is some underwhelmed Oklahoma fans.
I didn't watch any of the Oklahoma game. That's on my list.
What happened to K-State though in the Big 12? What exactly was it?
They almost lost North Dakota. I didn't watch a lot of this game because I just assumed it was going to be okay. But then
North Dakota, not the North Dakota State.
Correct. I think they're the Hawks here, not the Bison. I think North Dakota was driving at the end of this game to win it. They ended up losing 38-35 to K-State. It's on my list to watch. I haven't watched a ton of it. Not great. Not letdown after Farmageddon in Ireland. Kind of surprised actually that both of these teams were playing this week after traveling internationally, but Iowa State looked a lot better. They beat South Dakota, I want to say. They both had Dakota matchups.
Yeah.
And that Dakota's good. But man, it was very close.
Just a few things that jumped out to me otherwise in the Big 12. I won't go through all the games. On the Oklahoma State side, Haas Haney broke his foot. Looks like it's going to be Zane Flores for the foreseeable future. 27-7, they win. That's great. Real questions about Oklahoma State after this one.
Sure.
I mean, not just because of the injury, but like UT Martin had 10 tackles for loss, 8 against the Oklahoma State running game. I'm just not convinced at this point. And now with this injury, I mean, a lot of people like Zane Flores, but I don't know. I don't know if we learned a whole lot about Oklahoma State otherwise. So there's that. Houston was not good on offense last year, but I felt like they looked better. Connor Wegman had 3 touchdowns in his debut. For the Cougs. An inauspicious start for Scott Frost 2.0 at UCF.
I saw this.
This is a game against Jacksonville State, featured a 2-hour weather delay. They trailed 10-3 with 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They got their act together. Raven Taven threw 2 touchdown passes late. 17-10 your final, but again, not the best start.
No, week 1.
To say the least, for UCF. Now, there was a weather delay here again, and there was a fan. I don't know if you saw the fan get blown up, who tried to run out in the field, but
yes, not literally blown up, but security took care of.
That's right. That's right.
Field stormer. Yeah.
The 2 final points that I have here on the Big 12. I mean, we had a big win from Texas Tech. I think the BYU game's going on right now. I had South Dakota plus 15.5 against Iowa State, thinking maybe there'd be a letdown after that.
BYU 69-0 over Portland State final. Continue.
Okay. Rocco Becht showed that he's the boar.
Okay.
Rocco Becht, 55-7, they win over South Dakota. He completed his first 14 passes. He finished 19 of 20. That was a school record.
Okay.
And Kyle Conradi kicked a 63-yard field goal, by the way, at the end of the first half. Oh, and the only other thing, West Virginia. West Virginia had a little bit of a rough start. They had 4 first-half turnovers against Robert Morris and led 10-3 at half. But then they ripped off 35 unanswered after half. They ended up outgaining Bob Morris by, I'm going to call him Bob Morris, by 500 yards.
Bobby Mo.
I think they finished pretty strong.
Okay.
Last but certainly not least, ACC.
You don't want to talk Fresno stomping Georgia Southern on the ground?
No,
you don't have Matt Entz getting in the win column?
Okay. No, because I don't want to talk about EJ Warner.
Oh, okay, fair.
Darian Mensah looked really good for Duke. Went 11 for 11 in the second half with 3 touchdown passes as they win. Wake Forest won 10-9 over Kennesaw. They did lose Damon Claiborne to a rib injury before halftime. That, I think, altered the course of this game to some extent. But Pitt won big. Boston College won big. Louisville won big. NC State did not win big. 24-17 over East Carolina. You were all about this game.
Yes, of course. Bad blood.
Bad blood.
NC State got a goal line stand at the end to win this. Always love that.
I think that does it.
That's it?
We had a bunch of other games, but I did want to pay homage, if I could, for just 1 second.
Please.
To the people out there. We pose a question every week, kind of on the heels of all this. Put it out on social media, and we say, look, I'm a fan of blank, and right now I'm feeling blank. We call it role play.
Role play.
If I'm not me, who the hell am I?
Grant chimes in. I'm an Iowa State fan, and I'm feeling way too confident about next week. By the way, next week is the Cy-Hawk game against Iowa. I'm
in
with
Ames,
you, Grant.
Right?
Yeah, in Ames. Somebody just L goes by L.
Okay.
Just the letter. Indiana fan feeling concerned about all of the points left on the field.
Yeah.
Valid.
Week 1.
Vol till I fall.
Like it.
Tennessee fan. Feeling like we're so back. Connecting on the long ball like it's 2022. Ben, an Ohio State fan, feeling pretty great about the defense. David, a Mizzou fan, feeling cautiously optimistic. Misha, a Northwestern fan, feeling extremely bad.
It's the only emotion.
Both Eli and Clark chimed in on the Oklahoma side, saying that they feel quite concerned. Okay. Smackdown, a Cincinnati fan, feels like lighting a building on fire.
Yeah, I get that.
And Marion, a Michigan fan, is excited that they are now incorporating the forward pass into their offense. There you go.
Hooray.
Follow us on social media if you have yet to do so. That's not all, though, Dan, if I could for 1 second.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
It's deep into the night. Some might call this, some have called this the witching hour.
It's tomorrow.
It is tomorrow, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Every week we have a bunch of weird spells that take effect throughout the course of a Saturday, throughout the course of a college football week.
True.
Here were the 5 weirdest things that I saw today. Okay.
Okay. You have my attention.
I guess this wasn't today, but it was this week. Did you see the interception in the Minnesota game?
Oh, that popped up?
So Drake Lindsay tries to throw a ball to his tight end, Jamison Greer.
Mm-hmm.
Jamison Greer falls down in the process. He inadvertently kicks the pass up and into the arms of a Buffalo defender. Pretty much the lone highlight for Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo hung around. They couldn't get much going against a Minnesota defense, as we alluded earlier. But this play was very weird and not something that you see normal.
Agree. And you always get the announcer saying, wait. Something weird happened. Something happened. Yeah, I agree.
2, the T-shirt cannon at Camp Randall Stadium. Somewhat notable.
Mm-hmm.
It was accidentally pointed in the wrong direction, Dan, during Wisconsin's 17-0 win over Miami of Ohio. As such, it sprayed T-shirts all over the end zone.
Yeah.
In the words of somebody named Eric the Red on Twitter, quote, "Welcome to 2025 Badger football." Boy, did it feel like that.
Yeah.
3, we got a lot of messages about this, Dan. Did you see Joe Tess's shirt tonight?
He looked ready to party.
Joe Tess, not just leaving the top button undone, but also the second button.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it was stanky down there. He was calling that Florida State game. Gotta let that chest breathe, dog.
Oh, it definitely was, because it rained in the middle of that game. So there was a thickness in the air, and there was a thickness on Joe Tess's chest.
Gotta let it breathe, man.
Yeah.
You do not want a chest of bees.
No.
At some point, though, the higher-ups must have thought better of this, because if you saw him later in the game when they did some cuts to the booth,
Yeah.
button that guy up.
He did get a note?
I don't know if he got a note, but something happened. I don't know, maybe he's reading his tweets or his DMs or something.
That Joey Big Voice was guilted into buttoning. Continue.
4. This is my favorite moment of the day. College game day today was all about Lee Corso, but there was another moment in this broadcast that, to me, was worth a hearty chuckle.
Yeah.
And that was Kirk Herbstreit's dog taking a dump right as they're about to do the $250,000 kick, which a kid from Ohio State drilled. He then subsequently stepped in the dog poop.
Can afford new shoes. Yes.
Can afford new shoes. Peter making his presence felt.
This is the dog, Peter.
Peter is the dog, the golden retriever.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
And last but certainly not least, we did not mention this when we talked about mine, America's Oregon Ducks. The Oregon Duck lost his head, didn't he, Dan?
Yeah, I don't know if the Oregon Duck, I didn't know if there was a traumatic event that led to this, or just the duck tripped or something happened. And as you were seeing the duck run onto the field, well, so there's not after the motorcycle entrance, but a separate celebratory something that the season was starting. The TV cameras caught whoever, spoiler, there's a person inside the Oregon Duck.
It's not a real duck. Everybody, for anybody wondering, it's not a real duck.
But here's the thing, Ty.
It's a guy in a duck costume.
Here's my thing about the duck. The duck has such a huge personality on the sideline that there are times where I'm like, isn't it cool that Oregon has this giant weird species of a duck, like a humanized duck? Isn't that cool that like this school has a giant animal who likes getting up to hijinks and cheering on fast-paced football? And then I have to remind myself, I'm a man in his 40s. And yet still, I'm like, it's kind of cool. The head popped off and the person had to run back up the tunnel to get away from the shame of being a headless duck.
The honorable mention here is the interception that went down in the San Jose State game. We talked about that game a bit ago.
Yeah.
There was a play down in the goal line, at the goal line, where San Jose State's quarterback rolled out to the left, ended up colliding with a referee, then trying to throw the football, which subsequently turned into an interception.
Yeah. Kiss of death.
Kiss of death.
It was tough. My throat feels like Haynes King in this moment, in the middle of the fourth quarter. Just like, I'll do whatever it takes, guys, but I'm hurting.
Those are the weird moments for college football week 1. Of course, you can always chime in solidverbal@gmail.com. You can, of course, find us out on social media. And if you've made it this far, we would encourage you to check out verballers.com if you want to further support the show. We only have 2 things left, Dan. We give people the number every Saturday, 855-VERBAL-3. You send in your voice messages. Our chief reverb engineer, Shay, is the one who works his magic, cuts them up, and puts them together. Here's what you had to say in week 1. Have a listen.
I'm sure the historically mild-mannered FSU fan base will see the complete dismissiveness that the Solid Verbal host gave to the Noles this week and will treat them with humility and grace.
Hey, y'all, it's Mason in Jensen Beach, Florida.
This is Andrew from Raleigh, North Carolina. This is Rolls Royce 5 calling from Metro Atlanta.
This is Jason from Pennsylvania.
Hi, Solid Verbal.
I'm Frank Imhoff, the attorney managing the estate of the late Richard Verbal.
Choo-choo. Oh, dear God, that's the hype train for Archman and running off the rails.
Isaac Brown is the best running back in the country. He would make Nick Singleton and Jeremiah Love look like JV players in the first 10 yards. Birds are back, baby.
I'm calling in the next morning after just a horrific showing against ECU. We're going to be terrible this year.
Oh, no.
All the life in me is gone. Fire Dave Doran.
So does this mean that Alabama is the Florida State of 2025?
Oh.
We'll see.
I believe I just heard on the weather forecast that there was ice in hell. Go Noles. Tommy Castellanos for president.
Hey guys, it's Queen Ween in the Discord. I just have one thing to say. Not even Nick Saban could have stopped Tommy C tonight. We're back, baby. Go Noles!
I think we all want to know, did that Florida State fan finally eat the dog shit?
Your Maryland Terrapins are steady on the road to 12-0. All must fear the turtle.
East Coast, West Coast, it doesn't matter. Central is the superior direction. Fire up, Chips.
Ooh, I may have just jinxed Boise State just a little bit. Oh well.
Today, ESPN revealed during the post-game interview that Rich Rodriguez has tied Dana Holgorsen for the second most wins in West Virginia football history. He started coaching in 2001. What took him so long?
No matter what else happened today, you must remember that LSU is going to lose to Western Kentucky in November.
I'm just as happy as the next Auburn fan that we won last night. But in case Hugh Freeze doesn't work out, I think we should look at this Gus Malzahn guy. He knows how to beat Bama.
Temple has broken its 20-game road losing streak behind Evan Simon's 6 touchdown passes. So what if it was against UMass? It was still against an FBS team. Go Owls.
Wonderful.
Love that.
Awesome. Thank you, Verballerhood, for chiming in. 855 Herbal 3 again is the number. We will open that line every Saturday for you guys. Thank you for calling in. Good job, Shay. Always does a killer job with this. Do you have dudes, Dan?
I always have dudes, Ty.
Let's do it. We call this Dude Alerts. These are the individual performances, the guys who I think have earned the title of Dude. Let's close it out. Who we got?
Ohio State linebacker Arvell Reese, Bo Pribula. That was a ridiculous run. If you saw that run against a very small school from Arkansas, I believe.
Yes.
Joey Aguilar. We've got Virginia receiver Cam Ross against Coastal Carolina. Really nice day for the Virginia offense. It's Chanmo running things, right? For the Who's. We've got a Boer vote, the Rocco Beck, the best of all Roccos. Torrey Blaylock from Oklahoma. Bryce Underwood is an absolute dude, probably, but it was New Mexico. We'll see. Byron Brown, I think you would agree. Garrett Nussmeier, definitely agree. Emmett Johnson did run very hard for Nebraska. DDS got a vote. Earl Little got a vote. Haynes King, of course. Arch Manning, maybe not.
What about Mark Gronowski? Did he get any votes?
I'm not seeing any right now. But the dudes are impairing my ability. Devin Dampier for Utah.
Beautiful. I've got Andon Thomas as well for Army. Army, of course, lost that game in double overtime, but he had 14 tackles, 9 of which were solos, and I think 1 for loss.
In a losing effort.
A losing effort, but a huge game for Andon Thomas.
Absolutely. That's all I have.
All right. Well, that does it. Week 1, just about in the books. We've got more games to follow. There are some that are ongoing as we record. There, of course, will be a Virginia Tech, South Carolina game taking place earlier in the day on Sunday as some of you are listening to this. Notre Dame versus Miami is happening later on at night. And then on Monday, we've got Bill Belichick's debut. It is TCU against UNC. We will cover all of those games, as many of those games as we can on our next episode, which drops on Tuesday morning. In the meantime, if you made it this far, hit follow, hit subscribe so that you don't miss any of our episodes. If you want to support what Dan and I do, go on out to verballers.com, VERBALLERS.com. Just because you didn't get into our pick'em game for week 1 doesn't mean you can't get in it for week 2. We give away fabulous weekly prizes. And who knows, if you go on a big enough heater, perhaps you can still finish in the top 5 and earn a seat on our coveted board of trustees.
Would love to have you. Would love to report to you.
Dan Rubenstein, I want you to drink some tea. I want you to take care of that instrument because we're going to need you. It's a long season, my friend.
It's back to school, man. I'm getting all these new germs in my life. The worst.
Wherever you may be, thank you for tuning in with us this evening. It has been a long but awesome day of college football. There are many more to come. We are just getting started this season and on this show. For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrandt, as always, thank you so much for hanging with us here. We'll talk to you all soon. Stay solid.
Peace.